So I was watching back the first two videos that I put out, and I like to watch them back, to notice things that maybe I hadn't noticed before, or just to observe and learn from things that I could do better for my next videos. But I actually noticed something when I was watching them back. I noticed that I was talking to everybody from about a confidence level of about right here. Now, not everybody starts off at a level about right here. Some people are actually a lot lower. Some people start from ground zero, which is perfectly fine. But what I believe to be the base and what will allow you to continue to grow from that level is confidence. Now, before we go any further, before I get into anything, I just want to put this out there and make this clear. I am in no way, shape, or form a therapist. I do not have any background in psychology. I am simply here to voice my experience and my opinion. For you to feel confident, it actually starts from within yourself. Now, some people just have natural confidence to them. Some people, since they were little kids, those are what we consider to be the cool kids, outgoing. They're not afraid to do any wrong. So those are the people that are just naturally confident. And as they go through life, they, at least on the outside, look confident. Now, not everybody has that level of confidence. Sometimes you do need to create that for yourself. Now, it's easier said than done. Confidence is actually something that I've struggled with since I was a little kid. I think my whole life I've struggled with a lack of confidence. Even to this day, it's obviously gotten a lot better, which is why I'm willing to come on here in front of a camera with a microphone and talk to whoever's listening. But confidence has always been a major issue within my life. Now, like I said, throughout the years, I have gotten better, a lot better with my confidence, and I will talk about that in just a second. But up until recently, I discovered something that actually is very helpful for me and helpful for a lot of other people. Now, I was told about this by my roommate. So I'm like Experian. I give credit where credit is due. My roommate was actually the one that told me about this. He told me about him creating a vision board for himself. A vision board, which is where you attach images and things that have to do with your goals. And just having something to look at, having something that you are working towards, things that remind you why you're doing this every day, why you get up every day, or why you work as hard as you work. I already touched about how long it took me to get this up and running, how long it actually took me to get this out there. And I wasn't only because I kept, meeting speed bumps along the way. It was also because I lacked confidence. It was because I wasn't sure, how am I going to put this out there? Like, what if people don't like what I had to say? What if people don't like it? What if I just don't look good on camera? You know what I mean? Like the little things that were impeding me for the longest time from doing what I wanted to do. So having that vision board, having something to actually physically look at every day actually helped me realize, well, you know what? I'm doing this for this purpose. I'm doing this for this reason. So it gave me the confidence to keep pushing forward and just keep moving. Some people have other measures as well. Now, I've never done this myself, but I know some people that do daily affirmations. There's pages on social media that do daily affirmations for you. If you want to sit in front of a mirror and tell yourself that you're going to do great, tell yourself how great you are, then that's perfectly fine. If you want to give yourself positive quotes, if you want to go on social media and get that positivity from somewhere else, that's perfectly fine as well. There's absolutely no shame in looking for positivity and confidence from somewhere else, because I do believe it's human nature to put ourselves down. How many times have you guys heard the phrase that nobody remembers all the good that you've done, but they remember that one time that you messed up, or that one time that you did something wrong? And I actually believe that starts from within ourselves. I would always be the type to put myself down. I would always be the type to, focus on the things that I haven't done yet, focus on the things that I could have done better, rather than celebrating the successes that I have accomplished, rather than celebrating the things that I would get done day to day. You look back, you don't realize, because you're with yourself every day. So you don't realize sometimes how far you've come until you actually sit down and you look back, which is something that I learned, which is why I said in the very first episode that I do believe all successes, big or small, should be celebrated. These past years, as I mentioned, have been very eye-opening for me in a lot of different ways. And a lot of it started within myself. Before I was able to even think about moving out of my mom's house, before I was even able to worry about starting a podcast, even think about, pursuing acting, I needed to work on myself. Ever since I was a little kid growing up, I was never seemed as one of the cool kids. You know what I mean? I don't think anybody, ever made fun of me. I don't remember off the top of my head being bullied except for one time. But, overall, I got along with everybody, but just inside, I just did not feel good about myself. I was a little kid in elementary. My parents always provided food for me. I never went a day hungry. I always had a roof over my head, and I always had clothes to wear. But that clothes to wear was not what I deemed to be cool at the time. You know what I mean? I remember one time I was in elementary school. I was in about 4th, 5th grade. I got off the school bus because I used to take the school bus to school, and it was freezing. It was like 7 a.m. I was cold. I got off the school bus. I went into the restroom, and I took off my sweater. Now, the reason why I took off my sweater is because it was It was a blue and yellow sweater, and in the very center, it had the tiniest little Winnie the Pooh that you're ever gonna see. I don't think you could even see it unless you got like within 2 feet from me. But I just did not think that it was a cool sweater. So I literally took it off because I did not want to be seen in it. And I'd rather be cold. I had rather be cold than to actually be comfortable in that sweater. I was a little kid. I shouldn't have been worried about that stuff, but that was just the level of confidence that I had. You know how bad it got? I got to the point to where I started playing soccer since I was like 4 or 5 years old. So I've been playing my whole life. And I couldn't have been any older than, 7, 8. I had 2 games in one day. Now, my mom couldn't take me that day. So I actually hitched a ride with one of my teammates. His name was Jason. Shout out to Jason if you ever come across this. I went with him and his parents. Now, him and his parents would take their little sisters as well. So it was a whole family thing. And I caught a ride with them to one game, but we had about a 3-hour gap from one game to the next. So we decided to go get some food, and we went to McDonald's. Now everybody's placing their order. Everybody's asking each other like what they want. They asked me what they wanted. They were very kind. They bought me food, but I did not realize that we were taking it to go, because we had so much time that I would just assume that we were just going to eat there. And I had ordered some fries, and I wanted some ketchup. You guys know the little ketchup cups? That you pour the ketchup in. So as we're waiting for the food, I go and I grab my 2 little cups of ketchup that I wanted with my fries, assuming that we were going to eat there. So then my boy Jason comes back, and he's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you grabbing ketchup? He was just confused. And he's like, we're taking it to go. And I didn't want to look like a fool because I was like, oh my God, how embarrassing that I'm getting ketchup, when I could have easily just been like, oh, I didn't know. Put it back, throw it away, whatever. But I just did not want to be seen like a fool. So I was like, oh, I know. I just love eating ketchup. And I started licking the ketchup like if it was a fucking ice cream cone. Like, that gives you an idea as to how much confidence I lacked. Like, I'd rather eat ketchup like a fucking ice cream scoop than to actually admit that I was wrong because I just thought I was going to look like an idiot. You see what I'm saying? If anyone knows about lack of confidence, it's myself. Now, going away from all the ketchup stories, I have never been, like I said, a cool kid, what you would consider a cool kid at the time at school. There were a lot of people that I was friends with. There were a lot of people that I was cool with. I was pretty much cool with everybody that I came in contact with, at least from my understanding. I don't think I ever had any issues with anybody. Maybe not everybody necessarily liked me, but I don't think anybody disliked me. Now, again, as a kid, ever since elementary, middle school, high school, like, I always knew who, again, the cool kids were at the time. I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to befriend them, but you always kind of knew, it'd be cool to talk to this person, to that person. I lived my whole life through these school years, just getting by, trying to be cool, trying my best to look cool, to act cool, whatever it took to basically not be seen as a loser. But what made me realize that I really, really, really needed to change was when I was afraid to be seen with people that weren't cool. This was like 9th, 10th grade. Every year, I'd meet new people. I would have my friends, but I would meet new people. So at lunchtime, I would hang out with different people. Some days I would hang out with this group. Some days I would hang out with that group. But I never felt confident enough to, establish myself as part of a friend group, I guess. For 9th grade, 10th grade, I would just hang out with different people. I remember this vividly. There was a day where I would see a lot of people. I walked around campus and like everybody was saying hi to me, but I never felt confident enough to, just sit with somebody. And so I remember the kids that were considered to be nerds at the time. They're talking to me and they're like, hey, are you having lunch? Or, you want to come sit with us? Like, they were kind enough to offer me to sit with them because they saw me alone. And I was like, oh no, I'm okay. That's fucked up on my part because these kids were being nice to me. These kids were just trying to be my friends. These kids didn't worry about their status. You know what I mean? And I was never rude to them. I would never in my life be rude to them to try to be cool to somebody else. That's something that I never did. But I was like, oh, I'm good. Thank you. And so because I didn't find anybody else to sit with at lunch, I actually went inside one of the hallways. And we weren't allowed to be inside the hallways during lunchtime for some reason, but they would, wait for everybody to get out of the hallway, and then they would close the hallway. So what I actually did was I waited for them to, kick everybody out of the hallway while I was in the bathroom inside of that hall. And I spent the whole lunch in the bathroom on my phone because I wasn't confident enough to just go and sit with somebody. And I didn't want to be seen with the people that weren't cool, even though they had legitimately offered me to sit with them. As I was sitting in that bathroom, I was like, what am I doing? I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I need to change the way I think. So I think you guys have a pretty clear idea as to how much confidence I just lacked in my mentality. So I knew, one, I had to increase my confidence, and I had to change my mentality. That is actually when I started becoming more outgoing. That is when I decided to join the soccer team. I love soccer. I've been playing since I was, like I said, 4 or 5. I don't remember, but it was at a very, very young age. And throughout high school, I just didn't play. Throughout my freshman year and my sophomore year, I just didn't play because I was not confident enough to go and play, even though I knew I was good enough to go play. 11th grade, which is when that whole thing happened, I actually was invited by one of my friends who was in the soccer team to come try out. And so I gave it a try, and it was the best decision I made because I was actually doing something that got me out of my shell. I was actually doing something that I loved to do, and I felt happy about it. And that's when I became more outgoing. That's when I started meeting new people. That's when I actually had a legitimate friend group to hang out with at lunch. So just putting myself in those surroundings actually helped my confidence a lot. I began taking classes that I normally wouldn't take. I began to do things that were out of my comfort zone. By the time the end of senior year came around and we were preparing for graduation, they were taking auditions for the national anthem, to sing the national anthem at the graduation. I thought about it, and I was like, why not? Like, why not? I may never see the majority of these people again in my life. Why not go out? Why not do it for myself? Not for the school, but just for myself, to do something outgoing, something that I would never, ever do. I ended up not doing it, but just the fact that I even thought about it was a step for me, because like, never in my life would I even consider doing it, growing up. But when I got to that level, that's when I realized, okay, my confidence is growing. Now, I apologize for giving you guys a whole life story, but after graduation, I started working at a meat department, which is where, you have to provide customer service for people that come in and buy the meat at a grocery store, which again, I will not be saying the name of, but I'm sure you guys have seen at different grocery stores, the meat clerks, dispatching, cutting meat and all that stuff. So I did that for about 2 years. I was, attending people. I was fulfilling people's orders, people's requests. So I was constantly interacting with people. So that job actually helped me develop a little bit more of my speaking skills. But what really, really helped me was when I got out of that job and I started working at the gym. Now, let me tell you guys something just to put everything into perspective. So again, I already went over how my confidence was increasing, how my mentality was changing. Now, at the time when I was working at the meat department, I was working, 50 plus hours a week. So straight out of high school, I was making money. It wasn't good money, but it was just a lot of money because I was putting in a lot of hours. But I was just happy to be making money. I was also dating this one girl at the time. I wasn't going to school. So I would look at myself, I would look at my situation, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to school, but I have a steady job where I'm making decent money. I got a steady relationship. So overall, I'm doing okay. And that also boosted my confidence. But sometime after that, I actually went through a breakup, and everything in my life was still the same. I still wasn't going to school, but I was still working the same job. I still had the same friends, but the only thing that had changed was I no longer had my partner at the time. We had broken up, and that actually affected me really hard. Again, the only thing that had changed was the fact that I no longer had a partner, but my whole perception of just my entire situation changed. Rather than thinking I have a steady job, I was like, I'm still stuck at this job, which I don't like, where I have no chance of progressing. I started thinking how I'm not going to school, like what am I doing with my life? And just my whole perception changed. So my confidence level once again started deteriorating. So I was like, you know what? I gotta get out. The far drop from where I had worked so hard to get myself to. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to let myself fall all the way back down when I've worked so hard to get to this level of confidence. So I was like, okay, I can't do anything about about the breakup. It is what it is, but I can't control the factors around me. So I was like, I don't like this job. I don't feel good about being in this job. So let me get out. And I started working at the gym. If you guys have ever been to a gym, any gym, you guys know that it's a lot of customer service. It's a lot of customer interaction, checking people in, showing people around, selling people memberships, dealing with the customer service aspect of it. I was a member of the gym at the time. I had been going throughout the time that I was working at the meat department, and I had mentioned to my brother how I wanted to quit. My brother was actually the one that told me, why don't you apply at the gym? Why don't you ask if they're hiring? And I had asked, and they didn't have any openings for a couple months, but it actually worked out perfectly because around that time that I was like, let me just get out, I went to go ask again at the gym, and they said, you know what, we might have an opening in the next couple of weeks. And sure enough, they called me in. When I started working there, again, my confidence had dropped down. So I was again the new kid, and I was trying to make friends with everybody, but I once again, I felt like an outsider. But what helped me was just being in a situation where I had to put myself out there. I didn't have a choice but to put myself out there, but to talk to people, but to have these interactions with people. Now, again, working at the gym, I felt good. I felt good going to work. It wasn't as stressful as when I was working at the meat department. So I felt good. But I was, once again, scared what people would think about me, scared of doing something wrong. I was afraid, once again, of what people might think about me. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized these people's opinions offer absolutely nothing to me. Whether it's a good opinion, but especially if it's a bad opinion of you, or if somebody makes fun of you, or if somebody thinks negatively of you, that offers absolutely no value to your life. I was listening to an interview yesterday. It was somebody interviewing Terry Crews. Terry Crews, the big guy from White Chicks, the dad from Everybody Hates Chris. And this interview was actually on a podcast called Diary of a CEO, which is a great podcast, by the way. You guys should check it out. It's a very, very insightful channel on just the way people think. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts just because I love listening to people talk. I love hearing what other people have to say and other people's stories. And that's a very good one, actually. It's called Diary of a CEO. I've only watched, I believe this was the 4th episode, but they've all been really, really good interviews. But on that interview, he was also talking about his mentality. And there was a point where he said that he realized that people's opinions about you are not your business, nor should you make it your business. And he gave an example of if somebody goes up to Bill Gates and tell him you're broke, Bill Gates is just going to look at that person and just laugh and just continue about his day. He's not going to give it the time of day. He's not going to let that comment affect him because he knows that it's not true. And that's something that I had learned mainly over the past couple of years, but it was just a reaffirmation of something that is true. As you guys know, I'm venturing into the entertainment business. If I once again start caring about what people think about me or how people perceive me, that's it. That's the end of my career right then and there. I'm constantly submitting my auditions for roles. Now everything is online now. So you, rather than going to auditions in person, most of them are actually, you record yourself the way I'm recording myself right now, and you do your audition and you submit it in. If I'm going to care what every single individual thinks about me, I'm not going to make it anywhere. I'm wasting my time. Because when you're submitting for roles, when you're submitting for acting, you have to be able to show range. The casting directors want to know what they can work with, want to know what you have to offer. They want to know what your full potential is when it comes to being on screen. So guess what? If I hold anything in and somebody else submits a video where they just let everything out and they show their full potential, who are they going to go with? And all because I was concerned about what that person would think of me, a person that wasn't even standing in front of me, a person that was just simply going to receive a video on the other end. Lack of confidence really does make you miss out on opportunities. Now, I knew exactly what I had to do. Like I said, I knew I had to be able to do things without thinking what people cared about me, but I didn't really know how. It's a lot easier said than done. So I started off with the simple things. I started off very, very small. Now, if you guys know me, you guys know I'm doing something soccer related about 6 times a week. On Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, I actually play soccer games. But during the week, I go train, and most of the time, about 90% of the time, it's by myself. So I go to a soccer complex in North Hollywood, and where there are a bunch of fields lined up. Now, these are public fields. Like anybody can just go and start using them. But most of the time, I like to go on a field that is not being occupied. But like I said, these are public fields, so the majority of the time there are people occupying all of the fields. And whenever I would go onto a field that somebody was already on, I would think I have to make every single shot that I take, otherwise the person would see me miss, otherwise the person would see me fail. When in reality, that person was minding their own damn business, doing their own training, probably didn't care if I made all of them, missed all of them, whatever. But in my mind, I was like, damn, there's someone else on this field. They're gonna see every time that I miss, every time that I do a bad kick, whatever. I started off small. That was one of the first steps for me. I started training. I started going to the field. I started training, whether the field was occupied or not, whether there were people watching or not. I would do my own training. I would miss a shot. Guess what? I go grab the ball and do it again. Mess up a drill. Guess what? I do it again without worrying about what other people would think. Like I mentioned, I play soccer Friday nights, Saturday nights, and Sunday during the day. Now, these are just leagues at different parks, so there aren't like huge crowds watching us, but a lot of times there are people on the outside watching, family members, my own parents. Sometimes they like to go and watch my games, fans from the opposition team. So there are different people watching, but when I'm playing, I don't care. So another step that I took was to start taking the penalties and free kicks on my team. No matter where we were playing, no matter what the circumstances are, I would step up. If we had a penalty, I would step up and I'll take that penalty. If we have a free kick, I'll step up and I'll try to score that free kick. Now, when it comes to penalties, with this team, I believe this is my 4th season. I don't think I missed a single penalty, but every time I step up, there is a possibility that I might miss. And one day I will miss, no matter who's watching. And there will be people watching. My teammates will be watching. The other team will be watching. My parents might be there watching. But guess what? Next time, I'm going to step up and I'm going to take it again. And every single time I step up and I take it again. When it comes to free kicks, I don't score every free kick. I have scored free kicks before, but I don't make every single one. But guess what? I'm confident enough to where I'm going to put the ball down, I'm going to step up, and I'm going to take it, no matter who is watching. Now, I use soccer as an example because it's what I spend the majority of my time doing, but not everybody can relate to soccer. I also go to the gym a lot. I'm at the gym about 5-6 times a week. That's another thing. When I first started, I was sticking to the same machines, the same couple of machines, because it's the only thing I knew how to do right. The more experience I gained, the more I expanded my knowledge, the more I felt comfortable trying new exercises, adding more things into my workout routines. I'm not going to go too deep into the gym because I do want to make a whole episode where I talk about my experience in the gym and my knowledge of the gym. But I will say that I used to be one of the people that was afraid of doing a workout wrong because I was afraid that somebody might make fun of me. But let me tell you right off the bat, people do not care what you do at the gym. Like, people are not observing you. People are in their zone. People that are actually there to work out are in their zone. People are focused on their own workouts and just making sure that they finish what they need to do. And if somebody is at the gym to judge others, then that says more about the other person than it does about you. Now, the reason I brought up the gym is because I know a lot of people are afraid or scared to go to the gym. They don't have the confidence to go by themselves for whatever reason. And I think that applies to a lot of things. I think a lot of times people are afraid to do things if it's not accompanied by somebody else, because you just naturally feel more secure with somebody next to you in a lot of things that you do. So I think another very important thing when it comes to confidence is enjoying your own company, learning to enjoy your own company. In 2020, when we went into lockdown for COVID, most of the time I was by myself. I was also going through another difficult situation at the time, so it didn't help that we were in lockdown and we had to spend a lot of time indoors. But what that did force me to do was to learn to enjoy my own company, to not rely on being around other people. During quarantine, when restaurants started doing the whole outdoor seating thing, I actually went to restaurants by myself. I would order food and I would sit down by myself. I would take hikes by myself. I'm a night person, so I would go bike riding in the middle of the night by myself. Some of the photos that I have on my Instagram, which you should follow me on if you don't already, I actually took myself. I would go out and find locations and I would have photo shoots. I bought a little tripod and I would do all this by myself because it made me feel good and it made me enjoy my own company. Now, I love being around other people. Like, I'm such a people person, but I'm not afraid to be by myself. Believe it or not, enjoying your own company and learning to be alone, I believe, does help you put yourself out there more. Now, I use the gym as an example, but not everybody can relate to the gym either. So if you want to learn to put yourself out there, why not take a class? Why not take a course? Why not do something that interests you? If you want to take a dance class, a cooking class, an art class, whatever it may be, and you don't have somebody that's willing to go with you or somebody that's interested in doing the same things, guess what? You learn to enjoy your own company, so you build the courage to go by yourselves. You're willing to do things on your own. Once you're there, you're going to meet different people. And guess what those people's interests are? You see what I'm saying? So this is why I believe that enjoying your own company also ties in with the whole confidence. Now, everything that I've been talking about so far, I do believe has to do with the way you think, with the way you perceive yourself, with your mentality. But I understand that the lack of confidence for a lot of people comes from a physical aspect. Now, everybody's different physically, and that's just the way it is. That's just the way we were made. But there are different things that you can do to change the way you look physically if you are unhappy. Aside from everything that I already mentioned to you guys, I've always been insecure physically. There have been periods in life where I was fat. There have been periods in life where I was super, super skinny. Now, since I've been going to the gym consistently for years and I watch everything that I eat, I am now very, very happy with the way I look. And I have been for quite some time now. For a couple years now, I've actually been very happy with the way I look. But there are still many, many things that I cannot control about the way I look. Sure, I can lean out, I can put on muscle, I can do whatever I want in that regard. But for anybody who doesn't know me physically, I'm only 5'4", which is not very tall at all, And I've always been insecure about that. I've always been super insecure about it, especially because I see all these things on social media where people talk about 5'7" being short. Oh, if you're 5'7" or below, you're this, you're that. Well, I'm not even 5'7". I'm not even at the cutoff to what people consider to be short. I'm 5'4". To my knowledge, I don't think there's anything that I could do to make myself taller. I am 26 years old. I have hit my final growth spurt. This is as much as I'm going to get. This is as tall as I'm going to get. Nowadays, there's a gym, there's physical therapy, there are cosmetic procedures that can help you alter the way you look. But to my knowledge, there is nothing that I can do to make me taller. So what? Am I just not going to leave my house? Am I not going to lock myself in my room because I don't want to be seen because I'm 5'4"? No, I'm going to accept it. I'm going to come to terms with the fact that it is what it is. There are benefits to being short. Rather than think of the negatives, I'm going to look at the positives. I'm going to look at the benefits that there are to being short. If somebody is chasing after me, if somebody's trying to kill me, I can fit in small crevices. I can hide in smaller places. I think about this every time that I shower. My shower head is about like right here, which is perfect because the water falls down on me. If I was any taller, my head would be over the shower head. I don't understand how anybody could shower with their head sticking out of the water, just your body underwater. Like, I have to have the whole thing. I have to have my whole body underwater. Now, my facial structure, that's something that I have also always been insecure about. And although there are cosmetic procedures out there available for me to alter my face, I am not keen on doing so. And not everybody has the means to do so. Not everybody can afford to do so. So again, what am I going to do? I'm going to put a paper bag over my head and I'm going to walk around. I'm going to be like SpongeBob and apologize to everybody for being ugly. No, I'm going to embrace it and I'm going to come to terms with the fact that it is what it is. Now, there is a difference between confidence and arrogance. Like, I'm confident in the way I look, but I'm also realistic. I don't consider myself to be ugly. I am aware that I am not the ugliest person to look at, but I am realistic. So I also know that I don't have girls drooling over me, but that's fine. Through all my insecurities, I still have managed to have different girlfriends throughout my life. And I know damn well it wasn't because of my looks. I'm going to post a picture somewhere around here about how I used to look in high school. And you tell me if I was able to get those girlfriends because of my looks. It was because of the way I was, because of the way I am, because I showed him my true self. I mean, look at my hair. It literally looks like I'm wearing a helmet. I would just get a size 3 and I would just go all around my head. It literally looks like I'm wearing a helmet. And that was my hairstyle for all of high school and about 2-3 years after high school, until I actually started getting proper haircuts and all that stuff. Shout out to my barber Viv. So again, there are a lot of things that we cannot control. So what we need to do is focus on the things that we do have control of. How many of you guys have ever met somebody who is very, very attractive on the outside, but just has a horrible personality, a very, very ugly personality? And sure, you might look at them and physically they are very attractive, but trust me, the way you are, your personality makes you much more or less attractive. To this day, I still don't believe that every single girlfriend that I've ever had was attracted to my ravishing good looks. I do not believe that. I believe it was due to me showing them my true self and them actually seeing the value in me. So focus on the things that you can control. Focus on the type of person that you are, what you offer. Spread kindness, spread positivity. Like, people are attracted to that. People feel energy more than looks. And also surround yourself with the right people. The right people will make you feel good about yourself. If you notice that you start thinking or feeling negatively about yourself when you're around somebody, that person is probably not a good influence for you. So control your factors, control your surroundings. Everybody has a lot to offer. Every single person has a lot to offer in their own way. Every single person is valuable. Every single person is priceless. I'm going to give credit to my boy Juan, who I do hope will be the next guest on this podcast. He said something that absolutely stuck with me. He said it to me and he also posted it on his social media. And he said, every day you get to wake up and be yourself. And there is nothing better than that. And it stuck with me. Like, it's stuck with me because it's true. Because despite all the insecurities I've ever had, because despite the lack of confidence that I've struggled with my whole life and still struggle with to a degree to this day, there is nobody else that I'd rather be than myself. And if I can go from being ashamed to wear a Winnie the Pooh sweater to doing a whole podcast episode in a Kermit the Frog sweater, you can do it too.